Welcome to Ancient and Justified.
MTV Party Zone Revisited.
With me, James Hyman.
And with me, Simone Angel.
Hello, Simone.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Hello, James. I'm doing good. Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Good. Let's quickly cut to the chase. So you are interviewing Mr. C today. Mr. C from the Shamen.
Yes.
Of course, he's he's very talented in his own right. He was actually very talented before the Shamen. I mean, he was running those RIP raves at Clink Street. Often the narrative of this whole acid house, they talk about Shoom, but just around the corner in Clink Street, Mr. C was doing it too. And 14th of October, 1995, actually they were guests on Dance. I remember bumping into him in the makeup when he was very, really confident geezer. I mean, what's interesting when you look back at them in hindsight, I think there's a lot of parallels in a way between him and Keith Flint. I mean, look, this guy he's like a pin-up. Look, this is a rave star on the front cover of Smash Hits. In fact, in the April 1993 issue, which this isn't, you had these cardboard cutouts. It was, I think, Take That, Michael Jackson, E17, and this dude. So he was up there representing, okay? So he was like a pin-up of rave.
How
but
funny.
On the covers, nice little mix mag here. So he's like, they said, I think it was the Face magazine said he was a real life folk devil, which to me, like Keith Flint, they were bad boys, but they were very popular. It's not like you loved or hated them. I have to say most people, we all loved an R.I.P. Keith and Mr. C. You liked him, but in the sort of commercial big press and the Daily Mirror and the Sun, who were like anti-drugs, he was portrayed as a devil. So that must have been quite a burden for him to bear back in the days, right?
Oh, you mean because of Eezer Goode? I mean,
very much so. That's the thing that triggered
that's why
Yeah.
Okay.
You've obviously got to ask him about Eezer Goode. He's probably bored to death of talking about it. But, there's a quote in there about, was it really about drugs or was it this character they created? One thing I found interesting, it was a stat. I couldn't really find the stat anywhere. But respect you. I mean, this was a pop rave act, or they became very, very poppy. 12 UK top 40 singles in the 90s. That's pretty good. Just in the 90s, 12 top 40 UK singles. Of course, Eezer Goode being the most successful.
That's a lot.
So look, just, ask him about that. Recently I read, I don't know if you follow him on Facebook, but I read a very heartfelt, open, long, lengthy missive about the problems he'd been having, his mental health. Very open, very, very brave.
He's incredibly brave and incredibly open, and he is just not scared to even insert himself into the most controversial issues. He is not scared to take sides, and whatever barrage of abuse he gets, he just takes it. I mean, I respect him a lot. He is way braver than I would ever be. Sometimes I watch his posts and I'm like, oh, you can see it, like it's coming. So it'd be interesting to talk to him and to see, like, why'd you do that? Like, he must have this drive. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, because, like I said, I could never imagine doing what.
Well, as I say, and he had that.
Avoid all those discussions.
He had that in the sort of in those 90s rave days. He was very, people were really attacking him on all fronts. This, cockney, stupid blonde boy, whatever. He was, as the press would attack him.
He's doing his Super Freak nights, and he organizes festivals. He did a festival, I think it was last summer. The thing I really appreciate about him as well, like he was doing things where he would say to people, look, I know a lot of you are really struggling. This was through COVID. I know many of you are struggling financially. Let me know. I want you to be part of this thing. And he was basically paying for people to be able to come. He actually, this year, he said, guys, I can't do this anymore. It's getting too much. I actually am going to have to charge. But he does really seem to come from a a really giving point of view.
It's all about giving, not taking. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, I look forward to hearing the interview and sending my best. And, just don't go too crazy on the psychedelics.
Why would I go too crazy on the psychedelics? James?
I'm not saying you...
It'll be interesting.
Okay.
It'd be interesting. It'll be good.
The Shamen were a very psychedelic band. The Shamen were a very psychedelic band, and so is Mr. C. All right. That's what I meant.
Okay, no, it'll be good. It'll be good. Richard West, aka Mr. C, welcome onto the show.
Yeah, thank you, Simone. It's been a long time.
For sure. Yep. James told me the last time you weren't actually on Party Zone. It was MTV Dance that you guys were on.
Yeah, and I actually presented MTV Dance Top 100 of the 90s or something.
That's right. Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Good memory. Wow. And where are you right now?
Right now, I'm in Ecuador, in Montanita, at a club called Los Beach, which I can't think of a better club in the world. It's amazing. They've got like this main dance floor that must hold like 2,000-3,000 people in front of the booth. But then behind the booth, there's another dance floor for another 1,000 people. So it's like the booth is in the middle of these two floors. And then they've got like a cave, which is where I'm playing tonight, actually, in the cave. And we played, the after hours happens in the cave. So on Saturday night, we closed the main floor at 4 a.m. and then everyone moved into the cave. We were still going at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's crazy. But the cave is like an indoor club. It's part of this nightclub. It's because the most part of Los Beach is outside. And the place that I'm in now is like a secret dance floor. They've got a radio station like just there. There's a mirror. The mirror is actually a door. If you push it, it brings you into this little secret place where I am now. The club is unreal. It's just
what's it called?
It's called Lost Beach Club. It's voted number 25 in the world's best clubs in DJ magazine. But I can't think of 24 clubs better than this. I really can't. Everything about the production of this place, the whole setup is unreal. It's a proper labour of love.
So how on earth do you do it? I can't even imagine to be out to be DJ until that time in the morning, and you're still doing it.
Well, look, I'm a well-trained, oiled machine. Like when you're a DJ, you get used to these late nights. And also, let's bear in mind, we've just been through a pandemic. I didn't work for the best part of 18 months. And I used that time very much for like self-wellness, looking after myself, meditating every day. I quit absolutely everything, cigarettes, alcohol, not going out. Obviously, we're on lockdown. And really managed to do a lot for myself and for my own health during that time. And now that we're back open, I'm a different animal. It's like all of a sudden I grew up. I don't know. I never thought I'd ever grow up. They said, if you get to 50 and you haven't grown up yet, you don't have to. Now I don't have to. I'm 56. So like now I don't have to. Then I am.
Oh my God!
I know. Wow, I've got a picture of myself like Dorian Gray in his attic. So no, I do look well for my age. For sure.
Yes, you do. And you've been at this game for so long. It's kind of crazy. I mean, you started DJing. Were you like 16? Is that right?
No, I was actually 21. I released my first house record in August 1987. So it was ahead of the curve. Back then, we recorded that in 1986. So I'm from the very first wave of house music. I was 21. I was born in 66. So in 1987, I was 21 when I started to DJ. I gave up my milk round job and said, right, I'm going to get involved. Doing the milk round, I loved as my last job, but it's hard work. And, that 1 week a month where you've got to collect all the money from all the offices, it really takes it out of you. I wanted to pay more attention and time on my music career. I was going out every night of the week when I was a milkman anyway. And it was great because London clubs closed at 3 a.m. then. And I'd be out till 3 a.m., go home, shower, put on my milk float overalls, and then get out there, deliver milk till 11 in the morning, and then go home and sleep all day and wake up at 8 o'clock at night, having had a 9-hour sleep, have dinner, go out. So it was a pretty good schedule. It worked really well for me.
It sounds like it did. So, talking about time, there's actually some interesting quotes from old magazine articles that James Hyman has been finding. So I want to just
Here we go. I've grown up a little bit since then, I've got to say.
They're pretty cool quotes. So I'm really curious to see what you think of this. So let me play this for you.
All right.
Melody Maker, 3rd of October 1992, who says things like percussion at certain tempos pulls you into a physiologically empowering system, who talks about the syllogistic union of nature and technology, who claims to have ESP, and who believes in instantaneous matter transfer. That's right, Mr. C believes in instantaneous matter transfer. Pretty soon, when the apocalypse comes, time and history will end, expounds Professor C. At that point, mankind will be in total control of time and space. That will mean if I wanted to be in San Francisco yesterday, I could. Seriously, it's only our limitations that stop us shooting across to the other side of the room right now in no time at all. Are you saying that if the Shamen had a gig to play at the Sheffield City Hall, you could get there in 2 seconds? Why in 2 seconds? Asked Mr. C, genuinely puzzled. A second before we decided to go, because there's no such thing as time. The past, present and future are all now. One day, he gets all wistful, human beings will have the capacity to do anything. I get pretty pissed off at times when I'm sitting here and I can only see as far as the walls when really I should be able to see the whole world, because it's not just my eyes. Everyone is one person. So you're my eyes, Colin is my eyes, everyone who can see is my eyes, and everyone who can hear is my ears. Therefore, I should be able to see and hear everything that exists anywhere on Earth.
I'm glad the world is starting to catch up. Yeah, to be fair. Monotony maker, what I call them. I don't call them melody maker, monotony maker. They ridiculed me for my views. I bet those that wanted to ridicule me for my views are eating humble pie right now. Now the world has evolved, and since 2011 we entered into the age of Aquarius. The Mayan calendar ended, a 5-year cycle of 5,000 years of dominator culture, and we are in the midst of an evolutionary step, and probably, as Terence McKenna says, the greatest release of compressed change since the dawn of the universe. And it's on. So I still go by every single word I said right there.
Good. And I think, I guess in a way, quantum physics explains a lot of the things that you're saying.
It does. Quantum mechanics and quantum physics does explain things clearly. And it's great to see that quantum mathematics are catching up and science is catching up with spirituality. And it's overlapping, the doors of perception. I'll give you an example. These headphones that I'm wearing are made of exactly the same atoms as this T-shirt as my hand. And those atoms are a photon and surrounded by a neutron and an electron vibrating at various frequencies to form the illusion of a solid object. So these headphones are not solid headphones. They're atoms vibrating at a specific frequency to appear to be headphones. So therefore, it's only our perception that says that this is a pair of headphones. Now, the way that's quantum physics, that's quantum mechanics. But if you look at the spiritual world, and especially meditation, when you meditate and you come into the moment, into that point of nothingness, your concentration and focus is on nothingness until you achieve that point of nothingness. And when you get there, there's no space or time because they're things. And if there's no space or time, the past, the present, and the future in every dimension of the multiverse are all in that point of nothingness, meaning that nothing is everything. And that is the same space where we start to have our perception on what it is, the illusion it is we're seeing. So this phone is no more real than the dreams I had last night. It's all part of the great illusion that we can manipulate. And so I think that what that quote from Monotony Maker was absolutely spot on.
It's kind of amazing how well you put things into words, because to me, a lot of this stuff, it's kind of like, I get it for a second and then it's gone again, then I don't get it. It's kind of like, it's such a mind blow.
I think the hardest thing is to, when you say to someone that everything is a new illusion, that's a difficult thing to get your head around, because this bottle of water looks real to me. Mm-hmm. My hand looks pretty real too. How is that an illusion? But if it's atoms vibrating at a specific frequency to form a solid object, it can't be real, because that hand is not solid. It's billions of atoms vibrating to give us the illusion that it's solid. So it's not solid, and it's only our perception that creates that which we perceive, which is quantum mechanics.
It is a mind blow, though, isn't it? It's such a hard thing.
It's pretty,
I was talking actually to Howie B about this, because he is such a genius. You know, we were talking about when someone asks him to create an emotion in music, or even he says someone can tell him, make it sound like the color red, and he will be able to take that, start working with it, and then make the music that fits with that. But then...
Yeah, well, I think all good musicians can do that. That's what real musicians do. It's creating shapes with music.
But then to me, the real magic is, like you were saying about moving molecules, so he then creates the music, which makes the molecules vibrate, which go into someone's inner ear, their eardrum vibrates and at that same frequency, and they then in their brain translate it into music. So it's like it goes through all these different stages.
Yeah. Now, here's the good bit, that what is going on in his brain is happening because of consciousness. He is conscious. He is conscious of everything around him. He's conscious of all his 7 senses and the way everything is working. And he is able to then use that consciousness to create. Right now, consciousness is one. There's only one consciousness. There's no word consciousnesses. I am consciousness. You are consciousness. How we be is consciousness. Every single person, animal, being on this planet and in this universe are consciousness. And there's only one of them, which means we're all intrinsically linked. And that's where, when we get an idea for something, it comes from, where is this domain of the ideas? Where are they coming from? They're coming from consciousness, and we are all that. So if you are that consciousness, which is the creative consciousness and intelligence of the universe, then you are what religious people would call God, yourself. And that is why the law of attraction works. Yeah. That is what the law of attraction is all about.
Howie was saying, because when I said, oh my God, it's such a crazy thing to try and get you to wrap your head around, he's like, yeah, but you shouldn't think about it. He's like, the minute you start thinking about it, it doesn't work. You just have to get out your own way.
It's absolutely spot on. It's if you overthink things, you make them a problem. You know, like think as a child and you will be free. Yeah, from the programming, the tyranny of the programming that we've been forced upon us since early childhood. And if we stop thinking about things and come into the moment and do them, that's where the magic happens.
I love it. You sound like a shaman.
I've actually...
And there you were with the shaman.
Yeah, well, since we moved into the age of Aquarius, in August 2011, I started teaching, and I teach meditation. I'm a life coach. I help people to completely change their way of thinking by giving them techniques to rewire their neurological pathways. And I explain the law of attraction fully, how it works, how meditation increases the power of the law of attraction, as does gratitude. And there's so much that we're still to learn, but we're well on the way. And being in the moment, living life in mindfulness is part of that. So if we can stop thinking about things and stop doing them, that's where the real beauty of life is. I'll give you an example. Imagine that you walk out of your house and it's a bit cloudy, and then all of a sudden you've noticed the cloud moves and you start to feel the warmth of the sun on your face, and it feels good. And then all of a sudden there's a gentle breeze, and that feels really nice. And then you notice the song of the bird, and it's beautiful. And then as you're walking, you notice that there's someone's front garden, and there's a rose bush, and you see the vibrant red of the rose bush. And then as you walk past it, you get the bouquet of the rose and you smell it. Well, that all just happened in, say, 20 seconds, as long as it took, or 30 seconds. Now, imagine, instead, you walk out of your house, you're worried about your bills, you're worried about getting to work on time, you're worried about this thing happening, you don't notice the sun come from behind the clouds, you don't notice the wind on your face, you don't hear the song of the bird because you're listening to the voices in your head, you don't notice the rose bush, and you don't get the bouquet of it as you walk past. That's not living. So mindfulness is being aware of what you are actually doing and enjoying it. And if you don't think, you don't overcomplicate. Doing is living. And that's probably what Howie B meant.
Yeah, he talked about the action of listening.
Yeah.
And then and
Yes.
keeping it empty enough, having enough empty spaces for people to fill things in themselves as well. I actually want to play another quote for you. This is also very much along the lines of the stuff that we're talking about right now. So,
I believe the recent rise in house music culture has been specifically because of rhythms and drumming. Through these rhythms, people have been connected back to their tribal consciousness, and they've actually got into a new way of life, and they don't know why. Kids go to clubs and discover whatever, and they dance the night away in an altered state, and they've never been told why. Boss Drum explains the relevance of drums. It's a group thing, and that's the whole point. Creating this telepathic community and gaining some kind of a vision from this whole group energy and taking that vision out to the mainstream. It's a collective vision. It comes from having taken people on a journey and taking them through as many different moods as you can, so they experience different feelings together as a whole unit. The good thing about house music is dancing and forming that energy and like helping the planet through all that energy. The planet feels you dancing, it knows you're dancing, it feels the vibrations because you're connecting with the idea, you're connecting with the world through the power of the dance. It feels that. That's the whole point of drums.
No change there then.
so you were quite eloquent already back then. You know, way more than just a rapper. You know, you really had something to say.
I started meditating in 1983, using the law of attraction to map out everything that I've made for myself, map out my path, to map out my journey, and I've been able to be lucky enough to watch the universe unfold for me, which is my illusion, as I intended it to. And the dance and the power of dance and the power of rhythm is undeniable. And if we look for, like, that interview was back in 1992, which is 30 years ago, the 30-year anniversary of the Boss Drum album. And it holds true. There's now millions and millions of people around the world dancing to physiologically empowering rhythms called house and techno music, or drum and bass, or rave, or whatever it is they want to call it, every weekend, forming telepathic communities, helping the planet, and it's still going on. It's amazing that we're still here all this time later, and it works.
So how important do you think were the mind-altering substances, LSD, ecstasy? Because now, of course, people are talking about using these in therapy. But of course, back then, the kids were taking it, but they didn't really know. I mean, stuff was happening, but no one quite knew why or what to do with it. But what do you think? What's been the long-term effect?
Well, MDMA is being used now for post-traumatic stress disorder very, very, very successfully. And I'm not surprised, because there's a special quality with MDMA, and it's none of the other analogs like MDA or MDO. It's MDMA, that it has a power that makes you open the key to that locked door within that you hide your trauma. Yeah, and I've seen it many times when people take their first ecstasy pill. People can become very emotional, and things come up that they've hidden away. It unlocks that box, and that's why ecstasy is being used successfully for post-traumatic stress disorder. It's also being used successfully physiologically for multiple sclerosis, and there's been lots of things in America, where I live now, in California. The use of magic mushrooms has now been approved by the the medical world for helping with psychological issues as well. You know, someone 30 years ago said these were good. They may have been right.
And you were vilified, basically. I mean, that's one thing.
I was vilified.
You were totally. I mean, you were just.
But
seen
also,
as
look,
like,
let me say something. Let me point something out here. I was vilified for talking about the benefits of ecstasy, but 30 years later, it's still a soft drug. It's not a hard drug like heroin or cocaine or other things like that. It's soft, and that's why it's being used in such a way. And yes, there have been very unfortunate fatalities of people that have taken ecstasy, but they may have overdosed on it, and most of those people had pre-existing conditions like people having heart problems or water on the brain or all these various different issues that have gone. And more people in the last 30 years have died from eating peanuts per capita than from eating ecstasy. And that's like, if you say, like, you know, it should be downgraded to Class C, or it should even be legal. It is a soft drug. And all of these years later, I myself have continued my use of ecstasy. And I look well. I'm great. My cognitive abilities are perfect. I'm more creative by the day. I'm in the best shape I've ever been in my life. And you know, I literally ate ecstasy pills every weekend for the last 30 years, apart from the last lockdown. Yeah, and it hasn't harmed me in any way. And, you know, back then people would say, oh, well, you don't know what the long-term effects are going to be. When I started taking it in 1986, well, now I do know what the long-term effects will be. And
we can use you as a case
study. They will be 0.
zero.
Yeah, I could be used as a case study. The amount of ecstasy pills that I've eaten is quite ridiculous. Like, to add them up would be insane. And I still say that, you know, ecstasy is the way forward for, you know, helping people with their early traumas and helping people to come back to something and to celebrate life and form a telepathic community. So I still believe that it's a good thing. I still believe that it's working. And I'll stand by what I said 30 years ago. Eezer Goode.
So, but tell me, I mean, I heard you talk about an additional story behind the Ebenezer Goode track and the lyrics. I mean, is there any additional truth? Is there a second story where, I don't know, was it Colin who ran up to you and said, I have this great idea?
Yeah, I'll go through the story.
Tell me the story, please.
Basically, what happened was it was Synergy versus Decadence at the Town and Country Club in early 92 or late 91. And Colin came into the dressing room and he said, Richard, Eezer Goode. I'm like, yeah, they are. They're fantastic. And he's like, no, but Richard, Eezer Goode. I'm like, yeah, they are. And he's like, no, Richard, listen to me. Eezer Goode. He's Ebenezer Goode. I'm like, song? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, tell me. He's like, yeah, this dude, he just come and put his arms on my shoulders and you're in, Eezer Goode. And I thought in my head, this is Colin talking to me. Colin said, I thought, Eezer Goode, he's Ebenezer Goode. Eezer is short for Ebenezer, and it's a song. I'm like, okay, tell me more. He's like, right, so you Londoners, you drop your H's. Oh, yeah, he did it, him. Yeah, you drop your H's. So I want you to do a song where you drop the H on the word he. And the song is going to be about a character that we make up. And we made this character up out of a composite character of people that we really know. DJs, a couple of drug dealers, a couple of party promoters, a lighting engineer. And we made up this composite character. And so the song is about this character, which was the story we went with at the time, which was true because it's 2 songs running parallel in one, which I'll explain. All right, so we went with the song A. The song A is about this composite character who's a party person. He gets the party going, and you know, he's the life and soul of the rave. But the second song is if you drop the H from the word he, it becomes a completely different song. So you've got one song about this fictional character, and you've got another song about about Ecstasy, and they're both running like on a parallel line to each other, like a train track, two completely different songs. And that was the magic, and that was the bit that we didn't let on until much later on. And there was a tribunal. The BBC questioned us heavily about Eezer Goode, is Ebenezer Goode, and it says Eezer Goode. We said, no, it doesn't say Eezer Goode. It says Eezer Goode. And in the first verse, that's justified in the first verse by saying his friends call him Eezer, and he is the main geezer, and he vibes up the place. So that justified the chorus saying Eezer Goode. Yeah, this is short for Ebenezer. So that was justified right from the get-go. And we was never asked about the verses. And that's where all the magic is. That's where the second song is. That's like, the whole thing, he's refined, he's sublime, he makes you feel fine, though it's very much maligned and misunderstood. And it's every line, it's every single line. It is absolutely magic. So there's these two songs running together as a parallel.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
It's every line.
But then, of course, things just went crazy, and you suddenly were really coming from the underground and being such a big part of the whole rave scene, and then suddenly you were like pop stars.
Yeah, catapulted is the word we use from, obviously Move Any Mountain,
right.
Number 53 in the pop charts. And that was on its first release. And then that was followed up by Hyperreal, which got a little higher. And that was followed by Make It Mine, and that got a little higher. But all that time, we had a top 20 hit. And Move Any Mountain was still being played in clubs like it became a cult song. So we decided to redo the video, which we still used the same Beat Masters version, but we redid the video in Tenerife, and bang, it was number 4 in the pop charts. So that was my first experience of being in the pop charts. But it wasn't until the next year, in '92, that we released Love, Sex, Intelligence, and then Ebenezer Goode flying in at number 1, that actually that helped us get to this next stage. And for me, the kids are coming. Yeah, so,
it sounds like it's like
the owner's kids have come in.
It's the kids.
It's the kids. Right, so anyway, we was catapulted to number 1, and then all of a sudden, I'm this recognizable face, and it really struck me. I was we're number 1 in the pop charts, and I'm wearing what I wear because I like to wear it, like what I would wear, all the black, the futuristic like stuff that I would wear with the Shamen. That was what I'd wear walking up the street on a normal day, because that's what I'm into, fashion. So I'd be getting dressed up and like just to go record shopping, putting on all my black stuff and bleach white hair, and I'm sitting on the tube train, and all of a sudden the door opens at Euston, and all these Man United supporters get on, like loads of them. And they look at me, and one of them's gone, Eezer Goode, Eezer Goode. And with that, they've all started, and I've got a carriage full of Man United fans, all pointing at me, going, Eezer Goode, Eezer Goode, which is great because we wanted it to get sung by football supporters. We wanted that to be a chant, and obviously change the words to whatever. And it was full on. They all going, I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me. Warren Street Tube Station was the next station, so we was able to come out. Like I got straight off, and it's like, right, I'm out of here, and then got out and jumped on a bus for the rest of the journey.
Oh my goodness! There's a quote, another magazine article that basically just sums up how crazy things got. So let me play this one.
Mixmag, June 1993. The April 1993 issue of Britain's Bible Do Pop smash hits was even more of a bonanza bargain than usual, with four free gifts included in the price. Along with the large and lovely poster of Take That, the Ace stickers and stylish see-through wash bag, you got your very own stand-up cardboard pop star, not actual size. The choice: Take That's Hunky Mark, Delectable Tony from East 17, Michael Jackson, the King of Pop, and Mr. C. 27-year-old Holloway-born Richard East, aka Mr. C, officially joined the Shamen in May 91. He had been rapping for 7 years, MCing for 5, and had been a DJ at some of London's most influential and groundbreaking house clubs since he was 22. Less than 2 years later, he's a 6-inch giveaway puppet that falls over if you sneeze too hard.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that?
Yeah, do I remember? I've got a story for you. Right, when that came out, that cardboard cutout, there was Michael Jackson, there was Take That, one of the Take That boys, and there was me. And one of my friends in Portsmouth used to work for the distribution of Loaded magazine that it came out in. And basically, I was DJing down in Portsmouth, when it was out. And he basically got 400, he just was taking them out of the magazines, the Mr. C ones, and he took them all to the club. So everyone that walked in the door got a cardboard cutout, right? And then when I've come, they're all told, don't wait until he goes on the decks. Right, I've gone on the decks and the entire club is holding up their cardboard cutouts of Mr. C, all shouting. It was the funniest thing that ever happened. I was like, wow. So that is something that I won't forget in a hurry.
Oh, if only that had been filmed.
It was absolutely brilliant. You couldn't write it, so you couldn't script this stuff,
So that was a shame that back then we didn't have the phones, right? These days, it would have been filmed by everyone.
Yeah, that would have been viral. Hilarious, absolutely hilarious. But that's something that will live with me forever. And that little 6-inch cardboard cutout of me giving it all that.
But how nuts was that to suddenly be like this pop star? And
it was crazy.
It
was crazy. I wasn't a bad looking young man. And, I did become a pin-up, and I'm still getting it now. Like people, like women coming on my Mr. C page on Facebook saying, "Oh, I had such a crush on you when I was young." I hear it all the time. I'm like, what do you mean, had? What's the had? What's this had? What's all this had business?
You know what? So you are so un-British. Like the way you just, I don't know. I mean, you're meant to make fun of yourself as a British person, but you're never meant to say, "I'm good looking," or "I'm a good DJ," or "I'm good at that." And you just go, "Yeah, I am."
Yeah. Oh, no, I think some people might look at that as being a little bit opinionated about myself, but I'm very confident, and I'm aware of my abilities, and I'm aware of the way my mind works and the way I look, and I'm very happy. I definitely struck gold when the universe put me on this planet, and I can look at myself and say I was a good-looking young boy. I'm not feeling any problem with it, and I was the same. Like doing interviews, I'd be like, what I do on the decks, very few people can do, and I never had a problem saying that. Never a problem at all.
Well, in that same article, you said, I actually cut a little bit out because it was a bit too long. But after that thing where it said you were a blowaway cutout, you also said, "But hold on, I'm actually a really good DJ, and I have fans who support me to no end and who will fight you if you say otherwise."
I've still got those sorts of fans because obviously after 35 years, this year I'll be 35 years as a professional DJ this year, and I've not changed my love of innovative and forward-thinking and fun and mischievous dance music, and I still play very underground house, acid house, tech house, techno, electro, breaks. I still mix it up. I'm still known as a tastemaker, so I'm getting sent a lot of promos ahead of time because it's record labels. It's important for people like me to be playing their music in my DJ sets so that they can use those recordings and DJ streams to promote their product. And I've always been a tastemaker, and unfortunately, I've seen DJs, they start off underground and then they have a successful record that's a bit more generic, and then all of a sudden they change and they become generic DJs playing lowest common denominator sounds. I never really got captured in that, and so even today I'm still doing what I've always loved and playing forward-thinking, innovative dance music that's fun and mischievous on the dance floor.
But But it must just be your confidence. I mean, I'm sure with a lot of people, once it's easy to try and achieve something, but then once you reach a certain level, people get too scared to lose it and stop taking risks.
I don't think it's confidence. I think it's foolishness. I think I'm an idiot. I'm not one of these $50,000 a gig DJs. Right. Yeah, I'm not even 10% of that. Yeah, and I think if I'd have gone down a generic road and like been acted like an absolute, I won't swear, behind a DJ booth, giving it all that to the crowd and all that. If I did all that rubbish and made myself look like a complete twat and played generic music, I'd probably be a 50 grand a week, 50 grand a gig DJ, but I'm not. So it might be foolish that I haven't exploited that, and it might be foolish that I didn't exploit my notoriety as a crazy pop star with the Shamen and go down a more commercial route musically as a DJ and as a producer. But my heart wouldn't let me do it. I have a love of music that is undeniable, that I can't get away from, and I stick to my guns and stick with what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like you were saying, you can live with yourself. You're happy with yourself. You're happy in your own skin. Had you done those other things, you might not have been in this position right now where you just feel like...
No, well, I've seen them come and I've seen them go. And I would have been one of those that had come and gone. Here I am, 35 years later, in the best nightclub in the world. I've been having a fantastic time at. I'm playing again tonight on a beach in Ecuador. I'm not going to complain. I've just started touring. Got my record label, Super Freak. It's its 20th anniversary. We're just
20th anniversary?
Yeah. So the label's still going strong as an outlet for new talent and underground music. And I'm now celebrating that with a whole bunch of tours, and I'm fully booked. So although I've had a couple of hard years not working and had to get unemployment benefit in America, to survive and help pay the bills through the pandemic, I'm now coming out the other end of it and I'm back to work, and I'm grateful and I'm happy that I can still go around the world and DJ and get paid decent money to earn a great living. I live in a beautiful home in the hills of Echo Park in Los Angeles. We drive a great car. I travel where I want. I wear great clothes. I eat really good food. I don't need any more. What else do I need?
What else is there?
This is it. These DJs that are earning $50,000 a show, they're doing 10 shows a month. That's $500,000 a month. It's a bit mad.
I know.
It's a bit mad. And, I'm happy, I'll be even earning, if I earned in 1 month what they earned in one gig would be impossible, but for me, it's not important. Like, I don't have to play to a room full of cheesy kids that have had to take out loans to buy a ticket. Yeah. I'm playing to rooms full of clued up specialists that can afford to come and hear me play.
Yeah, and don't you think as well? Both of us, we've been at certain levels and had certain levels of success, and you're there and you start to realize that that's not actually the thing that gives you happiness. I'm not saying it makes you unhappy, but it's also not what makes you happy. It's just
I wouldn't have been happy playing commercially.
Right.
Like as a DJ, I couldn't do it. I wouldn't be happy doing it.
No.
And I've had DJs, I won't name them, but I've had DJs actually say to me that, like, I've been DJing and they're like, Mr. C, that set was amazing. You blew my mind. I wish I could play music like that. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Of course you can. They're like, no, my crowd expect me to play this sort of stuff and it's more obvious. And I'm like, I wish I could go really underground and play all the stuff that I love like that, but I just can't because my fans wouldn't allow it or accept it, and the promoters wouldn't allow it and accept it. Wow. And that means they're not happy with earning all that money playing commercial music. And here I am, happy as Larry, like a pig in poo, like absolutely loving it as much as I did 35 years ago when I started.
Oh, that's great.
Having a brilliant time.
And talking about money, let me play another clip for you. This is
The Face, December 1992. If the transformation of a group of indie revivalists into New Age messiahs was hard to swallow, then Mr. C's Ebenezer rantings reaching #1 took the disco biscuit. Surviving into 1992 against the odds, the Shamen are now releasing records that are going right over people's heads. Just how far can they go? Mr. C quotes, smash hits, 14th to 27th of October 1992. Mr. C whips out a tape, cranks the volume up and settles back. Has fame changed him then? The only difference is people think I've got loads of money these days, says Mr. C. That's why when anyone says, are you Mr. C from the Shaman? I'm going to ask to borrow a tenner off them just to see how many tenors I get.
And I did. I did. People come up to me and say, are you Mr. C from the Shaman? I say, yeah, give us a tenner. They're like, what?
Did you? No.
Oh yeah, I've done it so many times. Yeah. And some of them actually take a tenner out of their wallet. To me.
That is so funny. But the thing I noticed, so because I follow you on social media, and so last year when you did your event, was it the Super Freak? Was it the festival that you did?
Summer Love Festival. That was my debut festival. Yeah.
Right. And I saw you post on Facebook back then. You said, look, I know COVID has been really tough on many of you. Let me know if you can't afford the entrance fee, and I want you all to be able to come. And you were helping all these people out. And then this year I saw you post say, okay, guys, whatever I was doing last year, that was great, but I can't keep doing this. I'm actually going to have to start charging you guys.
Yeah, no, it's very difficult. Like last year when I did the festival, a lot of people were furloughed and people were broke and people couldn't work. And, like this festival was amazing, but I charged the early birds £20 for a festival. The second release was £30 and the fourth release was £40, and that was it.
Wow.
And then I let 400 people in for free. On that festival as well, and it was magical. And I always do that, like even with like Super Freak, I'd usually say to my friends, like, if anyone's broke, shout me up and holler. But on this event I couldn't do it, just because I'd lost so much money, putting on events that were half attended because of COVID, once things opened up, and I've lost money and I've been broke myself. I've not been earning anything, and I've been living off my credit cards for the last 5 months. And now I'm back to work and I'm going to pay them all off, so I'm feeling fantastic. But it was difficult. And lots of people kept messaging me, oh, can I get on a guest list? Can I get concessions? I'm like, well, how about you pay for a change? Yeah. It kind of, I bit it. I was like, you know what? Nobody should be asking any promoters for a guest list or a concessions list right now. So I decided I would put my foot down for this one. And incidentally, after that post, war started. And I'm now donating 100% of all the profits of that event to helping displaced children from war-torn regions. So I still want people to go and buy the ticket, and they're not getting on the guest list and they're not getting the concessions. But every single penny profit made is going to helping war-torn children. And that's my decision, because that's what I want to do to help.
I mean, I totally admire you. You really seem to take a stand, and you're never scared to take a stand like this. I mean, this is quite an obvious one. Everybody knows how terrible it is what's happening in the Ukraine. But even on other subjects, whether it's physical or sexual abuse, either within the music industry, on the dance floor, or if it's about COVID or whatever the issue is, it's like you are just going straight in, you tell people what you think, you get a barrage of abuse, and you take it. It's where does the bravery come from? You're so brave.
It's because I'm an elder in our scene. I'm one of the original first wave of DJs and producers, and I'm looked at as a respected elder. Not many DJs went on to become #1 double platinum selling pop stars. Not many DJs went on to become UK Songwriter of the Year with an Ivor Bello. Not many people have got the voice that I've got. And I regard it as a responsibility to our community to stand up and be a leader. And that's what it's about. It's not about me, it's not about my ego, but sometimes things need to be said. And we're a community, and all communities need its leaders and people that are going to step up against things that may be looked at in some sort of adversity, and stand up and say something about it. Like, with the standing up against sexual abuse, rape, women should be able to wear what they want in a nightclub. They should. If a girl wants to wear a really cute little dress, she should be able to. It's a dress, not a yes. And someone's got to speak up against like people that are abusing their positions of power within our industry, which upsets me because this is all meant to be peace, love, and chocolate mousse. Like, that's what we're meant to be doing here, house and techno, the ravers. We're meant to be the ones that are all full of love and kindness and empathy. Yeah. And when you've got people that are predators coming onto our scene and becoming predators and abusing their positions as DJs or promoters or club owners, or even just guys grabbing girls' bums on the dance floor, it's a no. And we have to stand up against all kinds of abuse like that. And I was sexually abused as a child, like from the age of 10 to the age of 13 on a daily basis by a man. And I've been lucky enough to transcend the traumas of that and still be a good person and still be able to do something. So for me, sexual abuse is a big deal. And I have a certain responsibility to our community as a scene elder to step up to the plate and say things as they are. And I felt the same about COVID. I spoke out against DJs DJing at plague raves in the height of the pandemic when there was no vaccine available. I've spoke out against all sorts. I've promoted the vaccine, and I've had anti-vaxxers ask me if I'm being paid by like big pharma, and I've always been against big pharma, but I'm against people dying. I follow the science, I follow citation, so I know that the spike has changed, and it's the spike that made it SARS, because of the way that it clings. So because of the way the way the spikes cling to the ACE2 receptors in our mucous membranes, be those in the lungs or in the brain or in the kidneys, they cling like leeches, like super glue. And then after 10 days, the virus dies, but the spikes are still clinging. And so your T cells are saying there's still a problem and sending more antibodies to that area, which is where the mucous membranes are, which is forming the mucus that people are dying in, like drowning in, which is a pneumonia. And that's SARS. Well, since Omicron, that spike has changed. And that is because of over 6 billion shots given of a vaccine that is, various vaccines that are based on the spike protein. For the virus to survive, it had to mutate the spike protein. And that's what Omicron is. And we're at the beginning of the end. And in only 2 years, it's not by the grace of God. Spanish flu, 100 years ago, took 5 years for the spikes to mutate enough that it was no longer a respiratory issue that was killing people. This has taken only 2, and it's because 6 billion shots have been given. Now, I don't believe that the vaccines are completely safe. There's been problems with them, and I think that these problems need to be investigated, and I will stand next to the anti-vaxxers.
Coming back to you being a good case study, that your mind is still working well after all these years of using ecstasy. Yeah. I mean, my goodness, it's like listening to a scientist. It's quite.
Yeah, I'm very well read.
Yeah, but
I'm very well read. I like to read.
Yeah, me too. I read like crazy, but I can't put it back into words as well as you do. So I'm a little bit jealous.
I'm very fortunate to be able to do that. And I often make posts and people are saying, "Oh, you've said what I was thinking, but I couldn't have put it into words like that." And I'm lucky. I'm a writer, and that I'm able to put things into layman's terms and make them understandable. And that's a gift that I've got, that I can read about something and then put it into really simple terms that anybody can understand.
Right.
And again, as an elder in our community, it's my responsibility to do so.
Yeah, and look at the success you've had with it. You had 12 top 40 UK singles. I mean, that's...
One hit wonder, they say. One hit
right.
wonder.
12, right?
Yeah.
And then also, was it in 1995? Just the last question. Were you guys the first to upload an album or a single online? Was that right? With the Shamen?
Yeah, well, we were actually the first people to perform online. Yeah, we were the first people to actually perform online, and we uploaded it online, but it was more about being able to perform and do a live set online, and we were the first. We talked about it with lots of people, and we were always very innovative as a band. I mean, my partner Colin is an absolute genius. He's got degrees in chemistry, physics, microbiotics. Like, he's an absolute genius.
Are you guys still in contact? And when exactly did you part ways? Because that was never quite clear to me.
Right. Yeah, we are still in contact. Haven't seen him since the pandemic is on, and he does his thing, I do mine. We have very different lifestyles, but we're always in contact when it comes to approving like syncs for our songs on commercials or anything that is being used for compilation albums. And, now pop 3,976. So we're still in contact to approve things like that. And we hadn't seen each other for a good 2 or 3 years before the pandemic, and we were actually threatening to come together when I'm in London and go for buy some food and all that, but we haven't managed to do that. So hopefully I'm going to be back in London next week, and I'm going to be there for 5 weeks, and that'll be a good time to actually sit down and go and see him, go and break some bread together, because it's been a minute. We're not in big contact, but we're still on fantastic terms with a lot of love for each other, and that will never go away. And when we did our last album in 1998. It was after that, it was like, it's time to stop. We did that on Moxie Records. And, that at that point, it was like, okay, enough.
But will you ever perform together again? Wouldn't that be fun?
No. It would be fun. But look, we're no Rolling Stones. I'm 56. Colin's probably got a year or two on me. He's 57 or 58. And it's a young man's game. And we really did have the best of it in our 20s and early 30s. And we really did roll it out there. And, while it might be nice to do some festivals or something and like modernize the sound for live and do that sort of thing, we're too old. It's not going to happen.
Nonsense.
No.
Well,
it's a young man's game where technosauruses.
you can say that about DJing, and you're still doing it. But
yeah, that's true. But I don't. I'm a young 56. So people think I'm 40. But I could still do it. But again, I don't see myself like DJing in my 60s. I really don't. And I'm a trained method actor. And I know that acting is going to take over. So I will still be an artist, and I will still be a performer, and I will still be an entertainer. Yeah. But I think there will be a shift from music into acting, and that's already started. Just before the pandemic, I did my first lead role in a short film called I Am Anna. It's hardcore drama. And it picked up a few international awards, and I'm very proud of it. It's only 13 minutes. And it's hard-hitting, it's high drama, it's a subject that's taboo, and so well worth a watch. I won't tell you any more than that because I don't want to spoil it for anybody that wants to watch. But that's something that I'm definitely going to be pursuing.
Okay, interesting. Hey, and then of course the festival. So if people want to go to the festival, are there still tickets available? And where do they go?
The festival isn't until September, and we haven't even started selling tickets yet.
Okay.
So we just announced it. The Super Freak 20th anniversary tour tickets are still available.
So just for all these different gigs that you're doing, and for the festival, where do people go? Is there a website or just your social media?
Yeah, I think So my social media is always the best place. I post everything on my Mr. C pages. All my URLs are MRC Super Freak. Super Freak is spelled with FREQ, not FREAK. So like frequency. So it's MRC Super Freak for Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, etc., SoundCloud, Mixcloud.
When I'm back in Europe, I'm going to go and see where you're playing, and I'm going to go show up for sure. And
awesome.
I won't ask for a free ticket. I'll pay.
Well, if it's not my event, I don't care. I can put everyone on the guest list if it's not my event.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I've really enjoyed talking to you, Richard. Thank you so much.
Simone, a real pleasure to see you again. Fantastic interview. Great questions. Thank you for having me on board. I really appreciate your time and effort.
Thank you. I'm very zen today.
Did Mr. C make you feel zen?
Yes, because I've just done the Mr. C guided meditation on SoundCloud, and it's really good.
Nice.
It's really good. And the interview is really good as well. He really is a shaman. I mean, the guy is smart.
Always
my God.
was.
Unbelievable.
I actually think in some ways what they were pushing was so ahead of its time. You know, all that sort of the shamanism, the mysticism. It was, you know, you go back again, you read all that stuff. It was very groundbreaking, their kind of philosophies at the time.
Yeah. He really feels that he's been vindicated when people were making fun of him way back when. And he said, look, everything, science has caught up, quantum physics has caught up, and all the things that he was saying back then, he still stands by them today. And he explains everything very eloquently.
Did he seem happier? Was he relaxed?
Yeah, very. I think, again, like everyone else, all the artists I've spoken to, they've all had a hard time going through COVID and not being able to go out and do what they love, to play, to be with the audience, to be DJing. So he was super excited. And he was in Ecuador, an amazing club. So that was great. And the other thing that was funny was that we were talking a little bit about Howie B, because with Howie B, we touched on some of these subjects. And when I just did the Mr. C guided meditation, he was talking about listening to the silence in between the sounds, the space in between the sounds. And I'm like, oh, that was Howie B. So there you go. It all comes around again.
It does. It's very cosmic. I like listening to the silence with you the other week on the Raid to Unlimited, and then there's a beautiful parrot.
There always is a beautiful parrot.
Beautiful Atmos where you are.
Yes, it was good.
Well done.